guess we could focus here a little bit on the Ja Morant stuff because that is the comp that people bring up. Yeah. First off, he's an inch taller and 20 pounds heavier.
How about this? More than that. Ja coming out 6'2 and a half, 172. Ivy 6'4, so more than an inch, and he is a thick 200 pounds. I get it. There are some similarities. Ja's way twitchier. Ivy's a really, really good athlete. Ja's still a better athlete. I understand it, but if anything, if you're going to draft Jaden Ivey, you might have more faith that he can take the hitting. I mean, I can't speak to exactly the reason why Ja wound up sitting as much as he did with injuries, but it doesn't help that isn't there? I would think you'd know this, GP. Doesn't Ja lead the NBA in points at the rim?
Points in the paint.
It's insane.
Yeah.
That should not be happening. Now it speaks to his fearlessness, his athleticism. He can't sustain that for a decade in the NBA without missing serious time. He's just small. It can't happen. So I know that's probably been a major talking about in Memphis. My point is that Jaden Ivey is more built for it, and also he can shoot more frequently from deep, that he's not going to have to rely on that. Like Ja Morant did not make the same or similar jumps in his 2 years that Ivy did. Like Ivy went from 26 to 36% from three-point range freshman over sophomore year, and that's shooting 97 three-pointers as a freshman at Purdue, 179 last season. His two-point percentage, his foul shooting, those increased. Ivy's assist rate, that went up. His free throw rate went drastically up, nearly 15 percentage points. His foul rate, even though he was playing 7 more minutes per game, Ivy's foul rate actually dropped, which shows you that he did not fatigue. He did not wear down. What will any coach tell you? Guys that play tired will foul more. Did not happen with Ivy. So I understand the desire to want to make the Ja Morant comparison. I think it's a little bit there. I just don't think they're players.
No, because you know what's part of the comparison too? I think the hair. It's similar hairstyles, so people see that it kind of looks the same.
You might be right about that, actually.
The hair is similar. No, Ja. If you're looking for what improvement the Grizzlies want Ja Morant to make from year 3 to year 4. And we're talking about a 22-year-old second-team All-NBA guy, so keep that in mind. He's like a superstar already. But how about, has he beat your guy, now pull-up jumper, pull-up floater? Like, don't attack the rim as often as you attack the rim, because he's you get hit hard when you go to the rim as consistently as he gets hard, as he goes to the rim, and you can land awkwardly. Just jumping like that all the time takes a toll on your knees. The Grizzlies would like to see more, 2 bounce pull up, 3 bounce pull, do very quick. Don't attack the rim every time. And honestly, at Purdue, Jaden Ivey sort of played similarly. Like 40, a little more than 40% of his field goal attempts were threes. And then another roughly 37% were at the rim. So like 78% of his field goal attempts are either threes or at the rim. There's not very much, mid-range stuff in there. He only took only 22% of his field goal attempts were 2-point jumpers, and he only shot 32% on those 2-point jumpers. So there's not a lot of mid-range stuff there. But if you're looking for a positive, because of his body, he's better equipped, to get to the rim and take those hits. He's better equipped than Ja was at the same age, and Ja is right now. Where I think the Ja comparison really falls apart is, like, Ja is a point guard, and Ja like has incredible vision, sees things happening before they're happening, and I don't think that's a strength for him, and I'm not sure that it ever will be. He averaged 3.1 assists, 2.6 turnovers per game this past season. Now, some of that's just, charges from driving to the rim, and you're going to get a lot of charges in college basketball. So some of it's that. Some of it is he would just drive into people and then lose it. But he doesn't see the court like Ja Morant sees the court. He doesn't pass the ball like Ja Morant passes the ball. And I'd be interested to hear what you think about this. But my experience with point guards is that the vision, it's either there or it isn't. Like, you can get better taking care of the ball, making better passes, all that stuff. But for the most part, I think you can either see things develop or you can't. I remember when Lonzo Ball was in college, and I would talk to people about him, and they said he can see passes that other point guards can't see, and then he can make them in ways that other point guards can't make them. Like not every point guard can see what Lonzo sees, but even if they then there are some that can, but they can't make the pass. He can see it and then he can make the pass. Ja Morant can see it and make the pass. LaMelo Ball, I think, can see it and make the pass. I'm not sure that's a strength of Jaden Ivey right now, which is, again, I get it. Athleticism, the dunks, the great first step, the hair, the fact that his mother used to coach Ja Morant. I get why people gravitate to that, but it is not, as you pointed out, it's not apples to apples.
The other thing, I generally agree with your point on passing. I think players can get better, but I think there is something of a learned/natural instinct that basketball players have, and you really develop that by the time you get out of high school. It can improve, but I do think that a lot of that can be innate, and you either have it or you don't. I will say, I was looking at Ivey's synergy stats, and because he's a really good ISO player, now Ja's going to distribute more. That might also play a part of it. I mean, according to Synergy, Ivey averaged 1.056 points per possession in all of his ISO situations. That's pretty good. Now, when you get to him single covered, it's up to nearly 1.08, which is, again, that's quality. That's points per possession, including the misses, the whole deal, right? He's more, how about this? He's more efficient in those situations going to his left than his right. Kind of speaks to his athleticism there, even though he's right-handed. And yet when he comes off screens and shoots, he's still hitting 56% of his shots there. So he's a wonderful, wonderful pick and roll player. Like very, very good at, here's where I think he actually does excel. When he plays in I heard this from a few NBA people as well. I said, go look at when they ran pick and roll stuff on occasion with Purdue, or when Ivey would play himself into it. He had a good instinct about when to find the roll man, and they would often have success on that. Now, they're not going to go to it. It's not going to be his absolute bread and butter every single time, but it speaks to the respect that teams and defenders had for his ability to shoot, to drive off the pick and roll. He's obviously great in transition. There is a lot there. There's a reason why that he's still in the conversation to potentially go as high as number 2. He hasn't had, as a reminder, anyone listening to this podcast now, just so you know, the teams that are up there at 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, they have not yet met with any of these prospects to have their workouts at their team facilities. Like Orlando has not had Banchero, Jabari Smith, Chet Holmgren, Jaden Ivey. They haven't had them in yet. Neither has Oklahoma City, neither has Houston. They will soon, but once they get these guys on their campuses, so to speak, do the interviews, do the measurements, see the workouts there, there's just still a belief that Ivey's going to be able to pass every single test imaginable that you could want, and because of that, make the decision that much more difficult overall. And instead of Ja, to me, 2 players that stick out that I think he might be able to resemble and grow into, and this would kind of be a combo of the both. First player I'm going to mention is still playing right now in the playoffs. Ivey does not have this guy's defense, but when you look at what Jaylen Brown has been able to evolve in offensively, he's a little bit of a bigger guy, no doubt about it. Jaylen Brown's bigger than Jaden Ivey. Not tremendously bigger, but still bigger. I can see, and he's a relatively recent top 5 pick. So I'm trying to get guys that were certainly first-round picks. But you know who actually he kind of reminds me of a little bit is if you go back to what Tim Hardaway Jr. was coming out of college. I looked up Hardaway's stats. For his career, he's averaging 14 points, 3 rebounds, almost 2 assists. Now, he has been injured plenty. He started half the games of his career. So he hasn't been the production there is not what you would want out of someone you're drafting in the top 5. I get that. But to me, when I see how Tim Hardaway Jr. plays, that's closer to what I think Jaden Ivey would be than necessarily Ja Morant. Yeah, there's still some Ja there. But overall, fabulous prospect. I mean, if you can so clearly, Parrish, see the evolution over the past 2 seasons, including, do you remember last year when he was playing with USA Basketball, U19 team, and there was just there was a ton of buzz about the leap that he was making, and it kind of led into his sophomore season where that that wound up bearing out. The hype was legitimate. He was really, really, really good. He got traction as a potential top 10 pick going into the season. That wound up being clear. The only thing is it ended with a whimper. 9 points and 6 turnovers against St. Peter's when Purdue got knocked out of the tournament. 9 points and 6 turnovers against St. Peter's. It's not going to prevent him from going in the top 5 or anything like that. But I remember watching that game and being like, this has got to be Jaden Ivey's moment. And it just wasn't. He took the 3 that I either would have won it or tied it on Purdue's final possession. Didn't go in. And that was just bizarre. But I do very, very much like his game. I don't think he's a guarantee to hit. Because, again, a lot of these guys will not to the point where they're playing up to their draft spot, GP. But hard not to like just how much he can do on offense and really how much he can continue to grow. He's got the body for it, the athleticism for it. Just want to see if he really wants to commit to being a high-level defender. Because I think he can get there. But, again, question is, does he want to?